Alright, here's a quick little how-to on how to replace your front shocks on your two-wheel drive Nissan D21 Hardbody truck. This is a 1991 Nissan Hardbody D21 two-wheel drive that we're going to be doing. We're going to be replacing what I believe are the original shocks because they're horrible and there is no spring to them at all. You can open and compress them by hand easily, and there's been a terrible vibration on this thing for quite some time. I've got new rear shocks on it and that helped, but I think that the front shocks are what I'm feeling the most now. I did one side earlier that I didn't film, but I'm going to film throughout doing this sequence because I did feel a major improvement over what I felt yesterday when I was driving. I probably put about 100 miles on this truck yesterday and it was shaking like crazy. So I've got new wheels and tires for it. I got two of them on in the rear right now. These black wheels are getting replaced with more of these white wheels that I sandblasted and painted, and I'm going to have some nice nicer rubber, a little bit more rubber than what I've got on here because rubber is part of the suspension and they'll always look better with a little bit more meat on the tires anyways. That's my personal opinion. You can bash me in the comments if you want, but I think that you got to have a little bit of rubber on a truck. So let's do the process. I'm going to take the wheel off and show you what's behind it. First thing is you're going to want to jack it up and make sure that it is securely sitting on a jack stand. Do not rely on the floor jack to hold the truck up. I use the floor jack just merely as a second like fail-safe in case the jack stand decides to go. There is a secondary in place, but I do not rely on the floor jack to do what the jack stand is supposed to do. So just safety first, safety always. So you're going to start by taking the wheel off. 21 millimeter lug nuts. There's 6 of them. I use an impact gun. Okay, now that you've got the wheel off, behind it you're going to see the upper control arm. You're going to see the brake caliper, the rotor, the hub. You're going to see the sway bar, you're going to see steering linkage, and then right here, this ugly thing right here, is the shock absorber. And as you can see, this thing is probably original. It even says, you can see it right here. If you look very carefully, right where my finger is, it says Nissan right here. So this is the factory, unless it's been replaced at the dealer at some point. Most people don't do that. Most people go to Monroe or Midas or whatever and get shocks there. This is an original shock to this truck, I believe, and it rides like it. So what we got to do is that I start by hosing everything down with a penetrating oil. I use Thrust. You can use PB Blaster. There's a lot of things you can use. I don't think that this bolt or this nut up here is going to come off. The other side didn't. I ended up taking a Sawzall and chopping it right here, just cutting the top of the thing right off. I'm gonna have to be super careful because I got fuel lines right here. I don't want to do those in. And then down here you've got a 17 millimeter bolt with a 17 millimeter nut on the back side. So you're going to want to put a hand wrench on this, and then use a socket wrench on the other side here to back this off. Steering linkage is going to be in the way, so you might as well just turn the wheel hard right or hard left depending on which side you go, and it'll give you enough room to get a socket wrench in. I'm going to use my electric impact gun because I don't want to screw around with sitting here all day just turning nuts and everything. And I'm going to put a wrench on this, but I highly doubt that that's going to turn at all. I think it's just going to round off, and then I'm just going to end up putting a blade right here and right there and just cut it right off and pull it out. Now if you are fortunate enough that this nut breaks free, I'm just going to tell you it's a 14 millimeter nut, so you're going to want to put a 14 millimeter wrench on it. But as you're going to see, this is going to, holy moly, the other side did not do that. The other side was permanent, so we might not have to cut if we get lucky here. Back it off a little bit. So that's pretty amazing right there. That's something. I remember doing these on my Frontier, and these nuts were on there so bad. Yeah, see, that's what I was afraid of. What you can do, if it decides to spin like this is what I would do. And what I'm going to try is you can jam a pry bar in here and crush the housing, and it'll hold it from spinning because you'll have a flat spot in the housing, and then you can continue to undo this. A recommended tool will be to get a ratcheting version of this. I used to have one, but like a lot of tools, it just seems to go missing. So I'm gonna go grab my pry bar and show you what I'm gonna do here in this circumstance. So as you can see, I don't fuck around. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to jam this in here and pry up against it, and it's just going to crush the outer housing where the shock is over, and it's going to make a flat spot in it, so it will cease to rotate. So any pry bar will do. I just use the brick shit house here to do it. So here's what we're going to do. That's going to hold it, and then I'm just going to continue backing the nut off until it argues with me to the point where I say fuck it and I'm going to cut it. This is it right here. It's just going to keep, plus this shock is completely shot anyway, so you don't do this to tighten. Just do it to loosen. That's all you need to do. And I'm just surprised as shit that this is even turning. The last one, the other side, I had to cut it off. So we'll just keep going as far as we can. It seems to be spinning, so I'm good with that. We'll just keep going. What we're doing today is I got the old shocks off of the green truck, which are KYB gas adjusts. They've only got a few thousand miles on them, not even 10,000 miles on them. And I was using them for autocross, and I upgraded them to KYB Monomax, and I saved them because they're next to new. I mean, as I said, only a few thousand miles on it, not even 10. This truck is more of my daily hauler. Just going around picking up the stuff that I wouldn't pick up in the green truck, and it's definitely the better of the two when it comes to just fuel economy. And if I don't need to use the Chevy, if I don't have to use the Chevy, I won't use the Chevy. Chevy is can you believe that? I can't believe that. That's crazy. Unbelievable. Okay, so if you're fortunate enough to have that happen, congratulations. Guess what I'm going to do next is hammer off the lower bolt. I'll show you that from a different angle here. Thrust, PB blaster, freeze all. Doesn't matter. It's all a personal preference thing. The thrust seemed to work on the last one pretty good. I didn't have trouble with this lower bolt. It was a little just finagling and getting the socket in there. So I'm going to get into the truck. Well, I'm just going to turn the wheel so it's all the way to the right. This way I've got room to get the socket in with the gun. Okay, so that is that. I should be able to get a socket directly in on this. You can see here. Sorry for all the noise. This is the bolt right down here at the bottom of the shock, right adjacent to your sway bar link, which I replaced these links probably a good couple of years ago. I ran this through the winter. It's a California truck. You can see exactly how quickly our New York winters absolutely demolished this truck, you know, these types of vehicles. But if you look, there's still a lot of good paint on the frame, which is a good thing. But I'm going to hammer off this thing. I'm going to actually show you from this perspective so you can see how I'm going to get it with a wrench. So that's top nut for the shock is a 14 millimeter. The bottom bolt is a 17 millimeter, and you're going to need a 17 millimeter socket and a 17 millimeter hand wrench to do this. So I'm going to get that. Safety glasses, just in case rust or something along those lines happens to pop off, especially on this thing. So this is my Cobalt electric impact gun, Ooga machine. I'm going to shove a wrench down in here. Just make sure you keep your fingers clear so you don't lose a finger. There she goes. The other thing I recommend when doing projects like this, these Nissan center caps, which I showed you in a previous video. These things are a dime a dozen at the junkyard. They're awesome. Just throw all your hardware in there and call it a day. Why put it on the ground and proceed to have to work for it afterwards? So that was a 17mm bolt. And as you can see, it came out fought just in here, but impact gun wins overall. So that's where we're at now. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stick a pry bar in here, and I'm going to pry this down. It's going to pull this spindle down out, and I should be able to lift this shock out. This shock's crappy enough that it's not going to fight me. It's not going to try and spring back up. It's got no compression, no rebound left on it. So I'm going to just compress it down, and it should pop right out of its holder, and then I'll work it out of this lower holder from here. So that's what we're going to do next here. Alright, for this you don't need anything major, just a, as you can see, that easy. That's what it was. Now normally, if you had a shock that was worth anything, it would spring right back. But this one is not worth anything. It doesn't spring back at all. It doesn't do anything, so we're just going to work it out. And it's coming out slowly. Not terribly fast, but better than it was. There it goes. And because it's compressed, you can just shove it in just like that. And there you go. Just by hand. This one's not as easy to compress and extend as the other one was, mainly probably because I crushed the housing slightly. This is what I took off. You tell me if you think this is still a good shock. Might be a little wore out. I don't know. If you can do this with your shock and it doesn't want to spring back, it might be time to replace your shock. This is the gas adjust shock that I took out of the green truck. It's got a few autocrosses on it and a few journeys, but less than 10,000 miles, so it's practically new. We are going to fail just because the shock is fully extended, and it would be pretty incredible if I was able to get it, but I don't think it's going to happen. We'll use brick shit house just for giggles and see if we can shove it in there. Holy moly. Wow, this is going better than I had hoped. You're going to want to make sure that there's a bushing between the shock here and this upper shock mount. There's got to be a bushing here, and there's going to be a bushing above it. And then you're going to put a washer here. There's going to be a washer, bushing, mount, bushing, washer, nut. And what you want to do is, what the instructions say to do, is tighten it down to the point where the bushing squeezes out to the same diameter as this upper washer. That is how you replace your front shock on your two-wheel drive Nissan D21 Hardbody. This will work on king cabs. This will work on regular cabs. It'll work on long boxes. This is just set up for a two-wheel drive. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Leave a comment. Leave a thumbs up if you liked it. And have a great day. Tune in to the 2WD channel on YouTube. I've got lots of projects in store for this particular vehicle, including brakes. I've got steering coming up, and I've got to do a radiator. stay tuned and leave comments, thumbs up, thumbs down. If you got questions, we always appreciate it, and subscribe. Thank you very much. And